Hey team, welcome back to another incredible and I think incredibly interesting episode of the Intentional Agribusiness Leader Podcast. This is your host, Mark Jewell, and today I'm joined by Michael Hill. Uh, you guys are going to love this one. He's the CEO of, I don't even know how to describe this, the largest, I guess you got the majority of the packing house, one of, I guess, the largest packing house. Can we say that in Florida?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to say that all the time. I like to say the best packing house
The
in
best packing house in Florida. Well, we when we've got 40% market share of anything in a whole state, then you've done something right. Also, a big background in agritourism. And as we were talking off the mic, you guys, I got really excited about making this podcast with Michael. It's going to be very, very cool. So, Michael, you get the same opening question everybody gets. What does it mean for you to be intentional?
Yeah, well, appreciate you having me on. Um, that question, what does it mean to be intentional? I think being intentional is really just doing what you say and say what you do. Um, when it comes down to leading a team in anything, you know, it's all about your actions. Your actions speak louder than words. So when you say that something needs to be done, or you're going to hold somebody accountable, or you hold yourself accountable, you can say something all day long, but then what are your actions behind that? Um,
Mhm.
and I think that's important for any leader.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I find a lot of folks in ag are like if you ask them, hey, do you uh, do when you tell somebody you're going to do something, do you follow through? And then, of course, they'll always say yes. Of course I do. I mean, that's the goal. And we don't always do it perfectly, but that's the goal, right? People bend over backwards, and I say, okay, so when you make a promise to yourself and you've made a promise to someone else, which one do you keep first? And that's an
And
interesting,
yeah,
right? That's an interesting conversation, and it really catches people off guard because I know for most of us, we are the first one that will let down.
hmm yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah. Well, going back, yeah, you have to. First of all, you die with one thing in this world, and that's your name.
hmm hmm
So it doesn't matter what assets you have or whatnot, and you can ruin that with a couple selfish decisions. So that's just the truth.
yeah, you bet, man. Well, talk to us a little bit about your company, and you're down in Florida, down in Eustis, Florida, fourth generation farmer, but didn't stop there. I mean, we got into agritourism, we got into packing. Like, what's it all called? How do you categorize it? We're gonna, by the way, guys, make sure you're sticking around because we're gonna go deep on some blueberries today. We're gonna learn some things about blueberries for those of you that are stuck in corn and soybeans and everything else, which is great. But this is super interesting because it's super practical when we can see these things popping up in our refrigerators all the time. So, Michael, tell us a little bit about yourself and the business.
Yeah, so I'm a fourth generation grower. My great grandfather grew up in or farmed in the eastern shore of Virginia, growing row crops, soybeans, field corn up there. And my grandfather moved down to Florida in the 50s. Heard about some farmland in central Florida that was some muck ground and started growing sweet corn, carrots, and radishes. Started with 10 acres, grew it up to 2000 just over time. He always believed in buying land, and was always trialing things, new varieties. Kind of developed the first machine harvested sweet corn picker. It was called the Sunshine Harvester in the 60s. Um, and my father, which is his son-in-law, that my parents been together since they were 14, started working out there, and really started running that operation in the 90s. And then in late 90s, 98, that farm got eminent domain by the state. Long story. So
Hmm.
we had to go. And then my father started his own farm when he was 40 years old in 2000. And I grew up working out there as a tree farm. So I grew up around vegetables. And then my dad started a tree farm. And then the recession of '07 hit. I was in college at the time. I went to Auburn University to get my ag econ degree there, and he said, "Hey, there's no room for you on the farm." And
Hmm.
I'd always wanted to be a farmer. They tried to talk me out of it. Came home in 2010, and we started growing blueberries to diversify the farm. We had 40 acres open. Worked there for, you know, just taking our fruit to a packing house. You know, all the big corporations that you see, the labels that you see, and wasn't really satisfied with the way it was being handled. Um, so my partner and I, H&A Farms, is the name of our company. I left the farm and the family farm and started, you know, our own farm management company and packing house. And it's kind of grown from there. So we now farm our own. We have our own ground. We manage farms, consult, but we also pack a large percentage of the state of Florida's crop. We're now into Georgia. We started a frozen processing facility this past year. We bring, you know, we're toll packers for fruit from Peru and Chile, kind of run our operation 12 months. And in the last 4 years, we've also started agritourism on certain farms that we have that are close to the population that are open to the public and really focused on you pick blueberries, strawberries, peaches, sunflowers, zinnias, and festivals. So fall festival, but we have other things going on, live music, food trucks, you know, all that kind of stuff. That's a whole nother business, but so kind of where we're at now.
It's a really interesting story because I mean you really just said a lot of things, right? I mean it's here's the family legacy. We grew up with this, 2,000 acre operation, which would be any farmer's dream, any grower's dream, right? And then it gets taken away. And we don't have to get into that story. We all know it sucks, and we all know it's probably unfair, and it probably was not right if it involved the government. So, uh, and that there's an interesting thing it says in the Bible somewhere. I cannot quote. I'll have to look it up, and I'll try to do it in the show notes. But it says in the Bible, anything that the enemy has stolen from us will be returned to us sevenfold. And it kind of sounds like you're on your way there. So
Yeah, I mean, hey, it doesn't feel like that every day, but trying, you know.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely been blessed. And you never know like what kind of curveball you're going to get thrown in life. But we
Mhm.
wanted to be in ag, and it's been my passion. It's what I wake
Mhm.
up wanting to do every day, and I'm just thankful I can be in it still.
Awesome. Good for you for sticking with it and sticking it out and keeping your nose in there and staying in the fight. That's awesome. That's what I think maybe one of the most intentional things that one can do. Talk to us a little bit. One thing you impressed me with the number of people it takes to do this. What does it take to run? You're packing 300,000 pounds of blueberries per day.
Yep. Yeah.
That's
During
insane.
our
Like I
peak
buy them
time.
8 ounces at a time.
Yeah, they all go into small pack sizes. That's the hard part. You know, every single one of those clamshells has to be denested and filled right to the right amount. And yeah, it's a lot going on during those times. But
And is that
yeah,
all
and
hand done? That's all hand done, not machine.
so at the packing house, we have a lot of machines. We have a lot of labor as well. But there's a lot of sorting technology that we use. But on the harvesting side, um, we're harvesting about 80% of that by hand. You know, 5 years ago, it was about 95% of it by hand. My
Wow.
goal is in another 5 years to be about 50-50. But
Hmm.
currently, we're running about 1,800 head of harvesters, you know, H2A employees that are coming over just for the harvest season um, in
That's
the
nuts.
field. And then, you know, packing house, we're running about 120 people per shift, but we got have to have about 350 people on the payroll. So
That's amazing. So you're talking 1,800 H2As. That's 1,800 people coming here from other countries to help pick blueberries for a while,
mhm.
right? How long is that season?
Our season here in Florida is about 7 weeks.
Okay, got it. And then you got 350 other people that are they employed primarily just during the season, or these are people packing every day because you're
These are people. Well, it's a rotation, right? And you know, because we're packing other people's fruit, we actually can't use H2As in our packing house.
Okay.
We have to bring these people in, you know, seasonally, which is a hard, you know, task.
Hmm.
But yeah, they're mostly seasonal workers. We have a core of full time people, but there's a lot of seasonal workers that come in that we have to hire that are local.
Gotcha. And then you're toll packing too. So you're bringing you're bringing stuff in from Argentina and bringing stuff that's grown elsewhere in the world, and then you're
Correct.
getting it put into those 8 and 16 ounce little clamshells that we all buy at the grocery store and send those out.
Correct. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the rest of the year. So we have our domestic season from March to July 1st, pretty much, and then our import season starts middle of July and goes to March.
Man, so wild. I appreciate this story because I like knowing more about where all of the food comes from, and we've got a little bit of agritourism for the Aggies. Even listen to this show today, so it's cool, man. What for you has been the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome building this business, Michael?
Well, I mean, I could answer that question a lot of different ways. The biggest challenge building the business, every business hits plateaus. I was the first and only employee for the first year, right? And which I'm thankful for because I know how to do everything, in regards to operations, sales, accounting, things like that. But really learning how to, get a task accomplished through others and delegate, um, because naturally, being in the ag business, you're used to, doing it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But for the business to be able to we've hit certain plateaus, and I've had to bring people in to really handle certain parts of the business for me, or we would not have been able to grow anymore.
Yeah.
So going through leadership trainings, following people, I mean, and kind of learning how to do that using mentors, um,
Mm-hmm.
has really allowed me to 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 continue to grow, right? But then I'd say the biggest challenge, that I face as a business, many challenges. COVID was I mean, it was almost crushed me because it hit in late March of 2020, April,
Yeah.
and 98% of our product is sold at retail. Well, I don't know if y'all remember, everybody rushed to the grocery store, purchased a bunch of stuff, frozen goods, whatever, and then they didn't go outside. So
Mm-hmm.
nobody went to the grocery store for a month.
Yeah.
And I here I am in charge of 40% of the state's crop and to move it, and we were backing up. I mean, we had coolers full, and
Mm.
pulled the plug on the whole season, telling the growers, hey, I couldn't tell anybody the volume that we had, because if I would have told everybody, the market would have crashed because we had such a large percentage of the market share. So I had to go home every night with deciding, do I stop this season for all these growers and for our own farms, or do I, continue to build inventory and then sell and sell against it? And over time, I chose not to, and had to keep it tight-lipped. Wouldn't allow for pictures to be taken anywhere. Got through it. We sold it all, but it was a very, very stressful time that could have broken a lot of operations.
Wow. The things you don't realize that are going on behind the scenes when that when that stuff happened, I can relate.
Yeah. So ended up being a good thing long term because people stopped going to restaurants and things like that. We're 98% retail. They started going to retail. So the next year we kind of had a better year because of it, but it
Mm-hmm.
was tough. It's
Yep.
because of the timing that it hit.
Dang. Wow, that's wild. What what's the culture like there? Like, I mean, how would you describe your culture, and how do you work to maintain it?
I mean, that's been a challenge to the changing of the business. The culture the first 5 years was just entrepreneurial, get it done. Everybody roll their sleeves up. Everybody wears multiple hats, and that's really what allowed the business to, stay, get through that first period. You always hear, 98% of businesses fail
Mhm.
within the first 3 years, and but so getting there, and then you start hiring people, you kind of start creating departments, and then you kind of get into this more, it kind of swings over to this, I would say, more corporate mentality. So finding that balance in the middle of, I would just say, letting people manage
Mhm.
and hold others accountable, and not allow for the weak links to bring everyone else down, because when you start growing a larger business, you have people that are just along for the ride. And so you have to keep that entrepreneurial spirit, but also allow people to hold people accountable. You can't. Not
Mhm.
every decision can. I keep going back to delegation. Not every decision
Yep.
can go through you. You have to let people manage.
Yeah.
Um,
So I mean, how have you dealt with that, right? Because I mean, there's a point. I think all leaders go through this hero's journey at some point where it's like, we need to delegate, but delegating also may mean like we don't get it right for a period of time, because and then we got to go back and do rework, and we got to retrain until people really do get it right. Like how do you walk that tightrope between delegation and like making sure that we don't screw something up?
well, I mean, first off, you got to figure out what you're delegating to. There's a quick exercise you can give to any managers. It's called delegate to elevate,
Mm,
where you know, you have four quadrants and you look at top left quadrant, what you're good at doing and what you love doing. And then top right quadrant is what you are good at doing, but like doing. Bottom left quadrant, what you're not good at doing, or what you are good at doing, but you don't like to do. And
mhm,
then bottom right quadrant is what you don't like or not good at doing and you don't like to do. So you don't want to delegate something that somebody's not good at and doesn't like to do. So you
mhm,
got to figure out where all those pieces are on the bus. And, my job right now is to figure out, and I get this from Nick Saban, even though I went to Auburn, I'm a Auburn grad and football fan and all that, but
yeah,
I think Nick Saban is a great leader. He says, winners like to be around other winners,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
People that are mediocre don't like to be around winners. So you have to get those mediocre people off the bus, right? So get the right people on the bus. And then your job from there is to put them in the right seat on the bus. So there's many times I'll move people around, know that they're motivated and they're have all the characters I talk about, AMC, attitude, motivation, and commitment. You got to have those three things to work here, and then putting them in the right place where they can succeed. So talking about that, I delegated to people that didn't really that wasn't their skill set, and that was the wrong thing. But I delegate other things to them,
Mm.
and they flourish. So finding those, you can't just delegate, right?
Yeah.
It's like Tetris.
Dare I say you have to be intentional with it.
It's right, very intentional.
Yeah, man, it really. I love the quadrant. You guys go back, just rewind a little bit, go back and listen to that, and then write down your own quadrant and do the exercise. There's free leadership training on the call today, and Michael's laying it down. So take it and implement an AMC. I love it. Attitude, motivation, commitment. That's good. You're dropping gold in here for us. I appreciate it, man. So okay, so that's the culture piece. Now, like how does having H2A workers and seasonal workers, like how does that impact? 'Cause I know you've got your kind of your core nucleus of full-time people, which is like 40 or 50, I think you told me, and then you got 350 other folks that are coming in and out seasonally, and then you got 1800 coming in, also during that time frame. So how do you maintain high levels of standards? And also you're in food, so I'm assuming you got special regulations that you're dealing with too, right?
Yeah, I mean it's tough. I mean that's the tough part about ag is to scale and grow to a certain level seasonally is
Mhm.
challenging, right?
Mhm.
We've started growing strawberries. We're growing a good bit of strawberries now because that harvest season is from November to March, and then blueberries is from March to May. So it kind of feeds into that. So we can have more full time, quality standards and things like that we on our own operations. So trying to piece those puzzles together, but yeah, I think going back to it, everybody has to be on the same page. Communicate, daily meetings, operational meetings about the challenges that are facing, and I faced those challenges where everybody was kind of doing their own thing and the business got to a certain level and then it started going off the rails.
Yep.
Um, so you have to have a lot of communication, and I believe in death by meeting. You can't have too many meetings, but communication is key, but we're all here to accomplish the same mission. So everybody has to fully understand that they're not there. To be honest with you, you're not going to see your family during our season. I
Mhm.
mean, that's just the truth of the matter. And the percentage of the population, especially Gen Z coming out of college right now, that is willing to do that is few and far between.
Mhm.
Um, so that adds a whole nother layer to trying to find the right team members that can handle the ag industry,
Yep.
because we're running 24 hours a day 7 days a week,
Yep.
and And if you're a manager, you can't have I kind of tell people we run the equivalent of a $400 million business for 10 weeks, right? But we can't be staffed for that business because we don't do that much revenue. We can't afford that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you got to bring in seasonal help and you got to communicate that and pour everything into them. But it's tough. So finding those people that are really willing, like we look at it as a battle. We're going into war,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to have that person in the foxhole with you that you want taking the grenades.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Okay. So, I mean, you've grown this thing from the ground up. I mean, you went out, you said you were employee number one and the only one for the whole first year.
Yeah.
Okay. Been there, been through that journey with you. So I completely understand what that's like. What, and now you're talking about dozens of full-time, lots of influence for a season of the year. You're running the equivalent of a $400 million company because, you're staffed up like one. Where did you get the balls to push go? At some point, right? Because at some point, I mean, you could just do agritourism and probably support your family, and that would be good enough, right? And you're probably feeding yourself off the place. You don't have a big food bill, right? You can just have that. And at some point, you probably, could just say, hey, you know what? We don't need 40%. We can get by with 10% and still run a profitable business. I don't know what the scale is to get there, but let's just say, I could
Yeah.
do less, right? And still and be sane. Like it takes guts to push go on something like that. Like what was the intention for you to get where you are now?
I mean, I've always, I guess I was that, ADD kid in school that I didn't like school. I'm always doing something. I'm always moving. I'm always kind of thinking, very entrepreneurial my whole life. So I'm not, I'll jump out of an airplane, skydive. I ski double black diamonds. I'm not really scared of things. Um, so that's just my personality, right? So if I see an opportunity, I believe in going after it. So I don't know. I don't really believe in risk if I can bet on myself, you know?
Mhm.
Um, so it was never really scary for me. There was a need and I knew that it could be done if it was done right. And I just went for it. But I also have this complex to me too, that I do have this, the only thing that I do is fear failure. So I, I I'm always kind of nervous that it's never gonna, be enough, so to speak, because I fear that it's all gonna come crashing down tomorrow. I just always have that in the back of my mind. I don't know why. I wish I didn't. Um, but I think it's allowed me to be able to grow the business because I'm always thinking about it in the shower, brushing my teeth, whatever. I don't listen to music. I just drive around, either listen to podcasts or think, kind of like an old man. Um, but yeah, so I think it's just some people have that in them, and some people don't. And I never really thought like, can this, is this a good idea or not? I just knew it was and went.
Yeah. 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 I love it. I mean, I have an appreciation for it, right? Because we're, similar boat, man. I mean, like we've had, a nice profitable business. We're like, we don't have to do more at this point, like we can just keep doing what we're doing. And my wife and I have we're making decent salaries off the thing. We're supporting some other families. And, I know there's 20 some kids that eat because I get up and go sell every day and I'm comfortable with that,
Yeah,
and then I think, what, maybe we should make that 200.
yeah. Well, part of it too, from an ag operation, I also am looking, for diversification. I mean, I'm also like agritourism is diversification, where we have a lot of challenges when it comes to imports coming in on us with a lot cheaper
Mm-hmm.
labor cost, with you know no tariffs and things like that on the product coming in our own season, no regulations against it. So we have to figure out a way. So part of it's diversification, just in case something happens. We've
Yeah.
got other avenues that we're doing and bringing in revenue from,
Mm-hmm.
not just seasonally.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, man. So you talked a little bit about your biggest challenge earlier. What's been the biggest win along the way?
I don't believe in wins. It's kind of
Mm.
like I was saying um, that I always have this fear of failure.
Hmm.
So and I'd say it's to a fault, right? Even if we do it, we hit the goals that we were going after. I kind of say, okay, what's the next thing? I don't really take a moment to say, wow, we won, and so I don't know. I don't really reflect on wins. I'm just glad I'm still in business. You
Yeah.
know, I guess I'm sitting here talking to you today, so that's a win. But
Yeah.
I can't say these are my wins. I'm still here.
Yeah. Yeah. Still in the game. Still in the
Yeah,
game. We went through our own version of COVID. Very different, but we couldn't do live training anymore. In person training events, and that was where we had all of our eggs in one basket at that point. And we do virtual coaching, of course, and we've been doing that since 2014. But it wasn't enough to keep everybody on the team. You know,
yeah,
and it's tough. You go through that, and it felt like a failure. I now look at it as a recalibration.
yeah.
You know,
I think just
so
reflecting on that question, I'm going to answer it. One thing I will say, my wife, we started having kids when we were young, 24. In today's world, that's young.
yeah.
And we were both working full time. And my wife, when she gets into something, she works all the time. And it was really, really tough on our raising our kids with both
Mm.
of us working at growing this business from ground up was when started it 10 years ago. So the kids were 2 and 3 years old. And she was working full time. And in the last 3 years, she's been able to not have to work anymore and can
Hmm.
really focus on the kids. And
Nice.
that's probably been the biggest win, I'd say, just for our family standpoint.
Good for you.
Even though she's a worker, and I think she feels guilty about it sometimes, and but it's really I can see the wins within our family because of
Yeah.
that.
Those are going to be the wins that we care about, especially in the later years.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, I care about them now. I'm sitting here. I've got we've got half a dozen kids between my wife and I. We put two families together here about 6 years ago, and there we got half of them are adult kids. We'll have 4 out of 6 are out of the house after January this year. My oldest daughter will graduate, and we've got two more coming up. And one wants to be a D1 volleyball player. Looking to get recruited to Notre Dame or Creighton University or something like that. Coming up this year. That's her goal. And it's just wild. It's great to see when you're able to take that time and put those time into because now you see the fruit of the true fruit of your labor,
right. Yeah,
right?
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, man, good stuff. You mentioned podcasts. What's your favorite podcasts to listen to? Books to read? What would you recommend for people?
You know, I like entrepreneurial podcasts.
Hmm.
Um, there's a few. Gary Vaynerchuk, I like listening to him.
Hmm.
Um, Cameron Haynes, which he's kind of you know, he's big hunt. I'm a big hunter as well, deer hunter, bow hunter. But he's also a long distance runner and things like that.
Yeah, cool.
Um, there's We Study Billionaires is a podcast. Just how people kind of grew their business and what they did and the challenges I kind of relate to, even though it doesn't have anything to do with ag. A lot of times you pick things up, but honestly, just a good book. Especially growing up around farming, and but my grandfather who grew up in the Depression, was a big mentor of mine, and my dad is a boomer, right? They believe they don't spend any money, and don't really believe in investing in anything outside of their own operation. But Rich Dad Poor Dad was a good book to read, um, I mean, it's basic stuff, right? But it's stuff that you don't learn in school
Yeah.
on just how to invest,
Hmm.
even outside of your own operation, how to invest and make your money grow and start
Hmm.
thinking in a term of delegation and things like that. It's a simple book, but it really has a lot of good fundamentals.
Yeah. Yep, you bet. I love that book. That I think I read it shortly after I got out of university, and did a poor job of implementing it for a long time. But we 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 watch it now. We pay pretty close attention to how we do that as well. So good recommendation. So just so you know, what we do with all those, we have a tool in our arsenal that our clients get access to called Jericho. And what Jericho does is it helps to curate hyper personalized individual growth plans for every employee. And we take all the books and the podcasts and the resources and we put them in our resource library. And so if somebody has a, like say a leadership capability, or they want to go double down on their entrepreneurship capability or investing capability, it recommends books and podcasts and resources that are free or even up to cheap, so that companies and people can build growth plans for themselves that don't cost all the money. And that way they can only they invest in the stuff that really makes a big impact on their life and their business. So those will be in there and
Yeah,
available to
that's
everybody who uses
awesome.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
Very
So
valuable.
yeah, appreciate doing that. Cool, man. Well, man, it's been a cool conversation. I'm when 300,000 pounds of blueberries a day. Like, I mean, just you ever get sick of looking at them?
No, I don't. At the end of the season, I'll get tired of the taste of blueberries because I eat them
Yeah.
every day.
I'm sure. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like anybody in other industries, it's just what you do.
Yeah.
That's just I know just about everything about a blueberry,
Yep.
um, and but I love it.
Yep.
But I look at them all different ways. It's look at them in dollars and cents and production costs and labor costs and things like that. It's just it's the thing that gets us our revenue on the P&L. So
Yep. 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 You bet. What, how much time do you just got to sit down and just look at numbers and crunch things on spreadsheets, or does your CFO do that for you now?
well, yeah, I've got a CFO, had one for a few years now, and
Mhm.
I've got a financial analyst as well, that really allows, then we sit down and look at things together. But that's
Mhm.
still a big part of the business. If you don't know your numbers, you're
Yep.
out of business really.
Mhm.
Um, so still have to do a good bit of that. I mean, budgeting, forecasting, everything that you have to be doing. It just allows me. I don't know how to do an Excel spreadsheet, to be honest with you.
Mhm. Yep.
Going back to delegation, I've always just put people around me that do it for me, but I know how to read one.
Mhm.
But there's still a lot of that. I mean, you can't get away from
Yep.
that.
Yep. You betcha. Good stuff, man. All right. Hey, if we're down in the Orlando area, do you guys open for tourism year round, or is that kind of a
Yeah,
fall thing, or what's the when we bring the
yeah.
family?
Amberbrook Farms is the
Okay.
name of our agritourism farm. We open in late September and run through the middle of November for a fall festival. Then it opens back up after Thanksgiving, for strawberry season. We do a Christmas, on the farm, and strawberry you pick, and every weekend we're open, up all the way. Strawberries go December, January, February, March. Then blueberries are March, April, May. Then peaches are April, May into June, and we have sunflowers and zinnias the whole time. But we're open every weekend, for
Come
people
on.
to come out.
Cool, man.
Um,
Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for sharing that. And I've got my father-in-law and brother-in-law are both in Orlando, so next time we're down, man, I'm calling you up.
yeah, absolutely, anytime.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, hang tight, and thanks for being on the show, man.
No, I appreciate you having me. I think everything you're doing right now is great. So
Appreciate it.